G'day, g'day, how you going? And welcome to a VR game again. So this game is... I can't remember the actual name of it. It is VR Sword Systems or something like that. I don't know. Well, pretty much it's a sword game. Um, I haven't played much of it. I've just gotten in here and done a bit of slicing. But it has a bunch of swords and you get to cut stuff. So it's a game that I like. So, I really like swords. So obviously, I'm going to like this game. I'm not sure, I don't think you can actually stab anything. That's a bit of a shame. So yeah, this is a Claymore. It's a great sword. I think. I'm not entirely I don't know much about sword terminology. So I could be wrong about that. First thing I like to say is sorry about the audio. I don't have a lavalier, lav mic, so I can't do much for audio apart from just having my regular microphone set up in front of me. And this game doesn't have any walking or turning system, so I'm only going to be able to actually physically move around, so the audio levels will vary. But let's, so this is the first menu. It's VR sword system. You get these wooden swords to be able to select. Behind you got some stuff there. So all I've done is the showroom. So right now we're just going to do the first thing, which is Tatami attack. Release lights for green Tatami mats. Look behind you for more options. Regular options. I'm partial to the Cutlass. I'm not sure why, I just really like it. Okay. Okay, so I see how this works. You just come up, and you try and slice the green one as quick as you can. Ooh, I like this. For some reason it's just been doing that one. I think it's trying to get me to think that it's going to come up there next. And I mean, it did, so. There we go. Oh, this is really fun. Damn it, I tried to... That was really stupid. Yeah, so the Cutlass is a slashing sword, which means you can't really stab with it. Which is why it has a bit of a curve. Because with slashing, when you pull it back, the curve helps. Oh, okay, so that was the end. So we can restart, yeah, so the slight curve, it's not very much, it's less than a katana's curve. I believe this one's a katana. Yeah. It's less than a katana's curve, but it's enough that it kind of helps. But yeah, for a good slashing sword, it's going to have a lot more of a curve. So when you, like a scimitar, so when you pull it back, it's like, say I'm slicing my hand, when you pull it back, it stays in. Rather than with a regular sword, where a slash and pull back, well, I mean, this one's, my hand's too close, but when you pull it back, it starts to come out. What happened to it? Oh, it's down there now. Not that one. Not that one. Okay, well, this is it's kind of an Ulfbert. It's not exactly what the Ulfbert was actually like. The pommel, which is this bottom part, would have been a lot bigger. So it would have been like the size of my hand, pretty much. Probably closer to the size of the hilt, which is this part, which hilt. That's a pretty good Ulfbert hilt size. Later hilts became a lot bigger. But yeah, that's probably about what it would be like. So this game, it's a game I got off of Itch. I was just doing a little browsing and I found it. It's pretty cool. And it's free, so you should definitely go and get it. If you find with giving a little money, you can also donate. It's pretty recently out. It came out in May this year. And I'm pretty sure there's only been one update, which is the one we're playing on, so it's still very primitive, but this is a the swords and the the physics. It's a unit Unreal Engine asset, I'm pretty sure. So you can go and buy it for $10 if you're making your own VR sword fighting game. So if you are making your own VR sword fighting game, I would very much, you should do it. Okay. Slice the sausages but avoid the pickles. Oh, doesn't that sound fun? Okay, so, well, let's use the other katana. This one? Yeah, this one. Fun fact about the katana. I have a few, and I'm going to save them during this. The katana wouldn't have actually been used in Japanese wars. It's too short. Ah, damn it. They would have used a much longer version. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, it's still pretty much a katana, but just longer. The other thing I was going to say is, a katana, compared to European swords, it actually kind of sucks. The reason being, the steel it uses, it's nowhere near as good as at current European steel. European steel of the time was something called crucible steel, which basically meant they would put it in a crucible and they'd melt it down so that it's liquid, and then it would have an even carbon content, which is something that you want. It helps the sword stay sharper and become springy. A katana, it doesn't spring, which means it doesn't like bend, and then go back to its original status. Instead, it bends. You know, if I were to like bend it like that, it would stay that way. If I actually had the strength to bend metal. I mean, I haven't tried with any solid metal, but I mean, katanas were pretty thick at the back. Oh, god damn it. Another fun fact, the reason the katana has the curve that it has, it's because... fucking switching swords. Oh no. Okay. The reason the katana has its curve is because they used a type of clay. We can stop now so I can show you. So this line, it's caused by them placing clay on the back of the sword. So then when it's melted, when the sword is put in water, which is what they do to make sure that it's just right for cutting, the clay, it stays there, creating this line, but it also creates the curve because it's not properly, it's not fully submerged. So yeah, the curve isn't on purpose. They could get rid of it by slightly bending it when they're hammering it out, but they don't because, well, the curve doesn't really, it's not bad, but it certainly could be better. So this time, let's use this one. Yeah, two-handed swords, like the katana is, doesn't really work very well. Oh my god. Another fun fact about the katana, its length is about that of an arming sword, which is a one-handed sword, but its weight is that of a two-handed sword. Another reason why it's not as good. Can I slap them? Oh, I can't. If I held the katana backwards, I could slap it out of the way. Yeah, this is quite fun. I really like swords, and oh, god damn it. And I can't really find many VR games that include sword fighting. So I was very happy to find this game. And to realize that it's free. Another good sword fighting game, though not for the Quest or Quest 2, is Blade and Sorcery. It's a really realistic sword fighting game down to the weight, like this game, except you can stab people, and it's kind of scary how fun it is. You know, chopping off the heads of your enemies. It's really fun. It's similar to Gorn, but more realistic. And it has pretty good graphics, you know? The people actually look like people, rather than in Skyrim. This is quite hard. Maybe I should get a second sword. I'll do that next round. Oh wait, I need a sword. Ah, no, that's my chair. Okay. Let's use 2 of these. Normal. And these swords are double-sided. I'm not sure if these were swords that were actually used. If they are, I don't know them, so I can't really tell you much about these. Which is a shame, because there's not much to really talk about in the video. This game's probably going to get more updates, so I look forward to it. And I'll probably make more videos on it once it gets an update. For now, I probably won't, because there's not much content. But yeah, if it updates, well, when it updates, because updates are bound to come, I'm certainly going to be making another video. I'd love to learn sword fighting. But I couldn't find any places nearby that teach it. Ooh, cut that one in 3. Even though the point of having 2 swords was to focus on both of these, but this is more fun. Yes. I hope they add at least mannequins that you can stab. That would make this game a whole lot more fun. Yes, these swords look very nice. Oh no. I cut that one in 4. How did I cut one of those in 4? Oh, that's sword fighting. So great. So now we're going to look at this physics demo. I'm not sure what this is. Ooh. It allows the sword to interact more realistically with other objects. Swords now have momentum, and the weight of objects makes a difference when colliding with a sword. Okay. I could definitely feel that 1 kilo one was definitely easier to slice through. Okay, let's do this. Okay. Can you throw swords? Ooh, you can! Isn't that cool? Okay. So this is a Claymore. It's a big 2-handed sword. And it's certainly a good one. Okay, we've seen what that is. That didn't have much. So let's go back to the showroom. Now go over the swords that are actually swords. So the Cutlass, already spoke a bit about this one. It's a bit curved, but not a lot. I like that it has a handguard. So you can, it means swords won't be able to cut your fingers off. I don't know much about the Cutlass. I know that there was a naval Cutlass, which was the swords used by military boatsmen. I believe cutlasses were used in the American Civil War, or maybe the American Revolution. Actually, I think it was used in both, because the Civil War happened in 1860, about then, and the Revolution happened around 760. So they probably both had naval cutlasses, because muskets are pretty slow. Next up, I'm not entirely sure what this sword is, but I can still go over its basic build. It's a pommel. If this is actually a bastard sword, which I'm pretty sure it is, this would be used, you can hold this part, usually, because a bastard sword is a sword that can be used one-handed or two-handed. This sword, it can't actually be held two-handed, the game doesn't allow it, but I'm pretty sure this would be an actual bastard sword. If it isn't a bastard sword, the point of the pommel is to distribute weight. Because, this, it weighs quite a lot. It weighs about 1 kilo or so. So this is here, so that so that this part isn't too heavy. So it means, when swinging it, it feels a lot better. If this wasn't here, it'd be a lot more, front heavy, and a lot harder to correctly swing, and to re-maneuver. Because an attack that's quite common in sword fighting is called a feint, which is basically where you pretend to say, pretend to go up, then you go down. It means they're going to move their guard up here, so then you quickly, it works pretty well. The next one, this one's advertised as an assassin sword, so I think it's just based off a sword from one of the Assassin's Creed games. It doesn't have a hilt, which is the part that protects your hand from attacks. The one that sits here, this. So that's a pretty bad idea, because then if you're actually doing sword fighting, another sword, let's get another one, could come and attack here, and it could slide down and chop off your fingers. Then you can't hold the sword. Then you can't sword fight. So most swords end up having a hilt. Some even have, I think it's called an O-ring, which is basically like a zero on the side, on one of these sides, or sometimes both, to protect from swords coming down here, rather than just swords coming down here. Next one, this one, it's advertised as a tactical sword, or something like that, a tactical combat sword. It's probably based off of a knife, going off of the small hilt. It's a little cross, quite like this. These holes in the back, I think that's a pretty bad idea, because if you come in contact with a sword, and the sword's going really fast, then it could break these little bits that don't have a lot of structural integrity, and it's going to snap back your sword, and you don't want that. The next sword, that's just that sword. This one. No, this one. Now this sword, you can tell by how big this part is. It's definitely a slasher, because that adds more weight, which means you could pretty much just drop your arm and it would cut through anything. This little hook here, it doesn't really do anything. You probably should get rid of it. It's a waste of metal. The fact that there's nothing here, that also loses structural integrity a little. Not a lot, but it saves metal, I guess. This little hook here, it means your hand can't slide off the end if you stab, but it's not a stabber, so you don't really need it. It just looks cool. So the next sword, this one, this wavy pattern, I have no clue why it exists. Like, it looks cool, but it is useless. If you're to stab, it could actually end up blocking the sword. from pulling out, which isn't something you want. Um, that's why stabs usually aren't done. Fun fact: the Viking sword, Viking shield, the edges of the shield were actually thinner than the base. So if you were to attack, your sword would get stuck in there, and then you can't attack them or protect yourself unless you have a shield. So that's pretty cool, and an inaccuracy of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which has a metal ring around it, which Viking shields just didn't. The next sword is Scimitar. This one's pretty realistic, except for that gem and the sides of this hilt. This hilt would be very heavy. You don't want that. Well, I guess it's a slasher, but you want the weight to be up here, which is why this is a big part. So yeah, that's just a pretty good sword for slashing attacks. Yeah, you definitely get rid of this gem, and you'd make the hilt thinner. It works a treat for giving you still a big area to add stuff onto it. This little hook wouldn't do much because of how small it is, but you know, it means if the sword does get stuck here, I mean, it means they can't really just pull it out. They'd have to pull back up, which means they wouldn't have a guard up. So that's pretty useful. Now the Claymore. It's nice and long because it's a two-handed sword. Means you can have better reach over someone with a one-handed sword. The pommel, it would probably be a bit bigger. This guard, this hilt, it's very nice. I'm not sure what the point of this is, but it looks nice. Yeah, overall this is just a really good implementation of a sword. Other than the weight of it, well, I can use this as a one-handed sword, which isn't the point of a Claymore. Now this Ulfbert, this is called an Ulfbert. It was the sword used by the Vikings. It's called an Ulfbert because we found these and it said Ulfbert on the blade, which is pretty cool. It's the first noted branding of anything. So the Ulfbert's hilt, it was usually pretty small, you know. Newer hilts, you know, you see this one, it's pretty big. This one, it's pretty big. The Vikings, they didn't have very big hilts. The pommel, it would have been about as big as the hilt. The handle, well, it looks very rich. They wouldn't have that rich handles. Usually Vikings, they weren't very noble. They were usually like farmers or something who just wanted more money. A common inaccuracy of Vikings is that they were doing it because they were all hungry, because they couldn't make food, because, you know, Denmark is a very snowy place. But during the Vikings, there was actually a warm period, so it wasn't snowy there. Just a fun little fact. And their armor, you know, like in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, their armor is basically just theirs. It wouldn't be like that. They'd have mail, which is for little loops. I can't do an O. It was the little loops, you know, like this, and they're all interlocking each other. And they'd have a big shield, you know, like 120 centimeters. I think the biggest ones were. Now this Katana. Circle hilts, very common. The handle, as far as I know, that's pretty common. Now this line, it's called a hug and a line, or something like that. As I said before, it's done by them putting clay on here when they quench it, which is what it's called when they put the blade in water. Same as the curve. The curve is caused because of the quenching. Now, the curve that's in this one, it's not very big, because they weren't trying to do a curve, so it wouldn't have been very big. As far as I know, these curves up at the top, they weren't very pointy, you know. You certainly couldn't stab with it. There are a lot more curves, so that's one problem with this. And I think that's all of the swords. So, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly did. I love swords, and I love talking about swords. So yeah, I'll probably make another video on swords. You know, like this game or something. If you did enjoy, hit like and subscribe. Subscribing is pretty much useless, but it lets you hit the notification bell, which keeps you notified of any of my new uploads. Yes. First I'm gonna... Throwing swords and cutting stuff is really fun. But yeah, bye.